There's something deeply mysterious, almost mythological, about the emotional fabric of a woman. She doesn't operate like a straight line. She's not designed to be constant in the way logic might wish her to be. And that's not a flaw, it's a feature. You see, the feminine psyche isn't built on linearity or cold rationality. It's a landscape rich, unpredictable, alive. One moment she's drawn to you passionately, fiercely, and the next she withdraws quietly, maybe even painfully. And if you're not prepared to understand that movement, it feels like betrayal, but it isn't betrayal, it's a test, and not a manipulative one, but a biological, emotional, and evolutionary reality. What do you do when someone you care about sends you mixed signals? Most men react, they tighten up, they accuse, they become insecure, they start pulling at her emotionally, trying to fix something that's not broken but merely cyclical. She isn't necessarily doubting you, she's responding to her own internal rhythm. The feminine does that. It flows in and out of emotion, attachment, fear, desire, and yes, sometimes all at once. You can't decode her with the same tool you use to solve a math equation, because she's not a problem to solve. She's a reality to understand. You must approach this with reverence, not resistance. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming perceptive. When she pulls back, there's usually something happening inside her. Not necessarily something you caused. But the average man, conditioned by surface-level interactions and performance-driven thinking, takes it personally. He assumes failure, and once he does that, he panics, and when he panics, he becomes needy. And when he becomes needy, he confirms her fear that she can't trust his emotional stability. Now this is where it gets difficult, because a woman's pullback isn't always logical. It can come at the height of connection, when things are going well. That's the real test. She's not always consciously trying to push you away. Sometimes it's her unconscious need to feel space, to test whether your presence is secure even when she retreats. This is a deeply archetypal dynamic. It's encoded in mythology, in the dance of Shiva and Shakti, in the stories of lovers across history. She steps back to feel, and I still feel his strength when I'm not holding on to him. If you collapse when she creates space, you were never stable to begin with. If your identity is tethered to her constant affirmation, you've given her the weight of your soul. And no woman, no matter how much she loves you, wants to carry the entire burden of your sense of worth. So understand this, her distance doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes, paradoxically, it's the very evidence of her emotional depth. But how you respond to that distance will determine whether the relationship deepens or disintegrates. You must hold space without losing shape. You must be present without pressuring. You must let her breathe, even when your instinct is to pull her closer, because love, real love, is not about constantly clinging. It's about respecting the space between two people and having the strength to remain rooted even when the winds of emotion begin to shift. That's the paradox of female emotion. The closer she wants you, the more she may test your ability to remain still when she pulls away. And that's where the real work begins. Life is not built on comfort, it's constructed through tension and the interplay of opposites, chaos and order, the known and the unknown, the masculine and the feminine. You can see this pattern echoed throughout all of nature, throughout every great narrative, in every myth, every civilization, even in your own psychology. There is a constant dance between these two primordial forces. And nowhere is that dance more intimate, more personal, than in a relationship between a man and a woman. The feminine, in its essence, is chaos, not in the sense of destruction, but in the sense of boundless potential. She is the ocean, deep, vast, beautiful, dangerous. She can lift you into joy or drown you in uncertainty. The masculine is order, not control, but structure. He is the ship, direction, discipline, containment. And the relationship is the voyage. But if the ship tries to command the ocean, he loses. If he surrenders completely to the waves, he's swallowed. The only path forward is to navigate, to find that dynamic equilibrium where he can move with her, not against her, but never lose his compass. Now, most men don't understand this. They try to impose rigid expectations on a woman, expecting her to behave, speak, and emote like a man, predictable, rational, straightforward, but that's not her nature. She brings uncertainty into your world, and if you're the kind of man who can't stand uncertainty, who fears emotional volatility, you will begin to resent her very essence. You will try to fix her, control her, silence her, or worse, retreat from her. But the moment you do that, you've already failed the test, because the test wasn't whether you could change her. The test was whether you could stay grounded while facing her full emotional range. You must realize her pullback, her tears, her anger, even her silence, these are not malfunctions. These are invitations. Invitations for you to meet her at a deeper level. She is not asking you to rescue her from the storm. She is asking if you can stand with her in it. That's what she craves, not dominance, not submission, presence, and presence is not passive. It's not simply being physically there. It's being fully alive in the moment, holding your frame, not resisting her emotion, but not dissolving into it either. This is what the great myths always symbolized. The knight doesn't tame the dragon by running away or killing it senselessly. He tames it by confronting it face to face with courage and clarity. The dragon is chaos. The feminine, the unknown, and the hero's journey isn't to conquer her, it's to earn her respect. In relationships, that dragon shows up in her pullbacks, her uncertainties, her tests, and you are being called to bring order. Not rigidity, not coldness, but strength with flexibility. If you're too brittle, you'll snap. If you're too soft, you'll sink. The answer is a kind of tension resilience, the ability to hold your center as she moves around you, sometimes away, sometimes toward, but always watching. Always sensing whether you are capable of holding the space. A man must not be threatened by the chaotic nature of the feminine. He must be initiated by it, because if he cannot face her emotional weather without losing himself, he will never truly connect with her. He will always live on the surface, in performance, in pretense, and the feminine sees through that, she feels that, and she pulls away, not because she doesn't care, but because she can't afford to entrust herself to a man who hasn't anchored his soul. Chaos isn't the enemy, it's the proving ground, the place where weak men falter and real men rise. In every moment she pulls away, life is asking you, can you remain solid in uncertainty? Can you lead without force? Can you stay rooted when the ground shakes? And if you can, if you truly can, then not only will she come closer, but you will also become more of a man than you ever thought you could be. In a world that's becoming increasingly loud, reactive, and emotionally unstable, the rarest thing a woman can find is a man who is anchored, not aggressive, not emotionally numb, but deeply rooted, grounded in who he is, regardless of who she's being in the moment. And that's not just desirable, it's essential, because a woman by nature moves through waves, emotional waves, psychological waves, hormonal waves. It's not weakness, it's the brilliance of a system designed for intuition, responsiveness, care, and creation. But in the absence of a steady masculine presence, those waves can crash uncontrollably, not because she's broken, but because she has no container to meet them. Men have forgotten this. Our culture doesn't teach it anymore. We train boys to apologize for their masculinity, or worse, to avoid becoming men altogether. We've lost the sacred image of the man who can hold space without needing to fix it, the man who can sit in the middle of someone else's chaos and not flinch. The man who, when the world around him is losing itself, becomes even more still. That's what she's looking for when she tests you. Can you hold firm when I pull away? Can you remain stable, calm, non-reactive, even when she becomes unsure of herself? And understand this, being the anchored presence doesn't mean being indifferent. That's cowardice disguised as calm. It doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means regulating it, guiding it. It's not about being stoic in the face of her pain. It's about being solid enough that she feels safe bringing her pain to you, and she will, not always directly, sometimes through withdrawal, sometimes through coldness, sometimes through what seems like contradiction. But at the core, she is asking, can I trust that your sense of self doesn't depend on my current mood? There is a difference between being present and being possessive. The anchored man doesn't chase her when she needs space. He doesn't collapse into self-doubt. He doesn't spiral into stories. He waits with strength, not silence, with patience, not passivity. He stays rooted, not as a tactic to manipulate her return, but because he's committed to being the kind of man who doesn't abandon himself when someone else is uncertain. I've seen countless relationships fall apart, not because love wasn't there, but because presence wasn't. The man wanted affection, but couldn't tolerate rejection. He wanted connection, but couldn't withstand distance, and in his attempt to cling, he lost the very thing he was trying to protect. That's the tragedy. When you try to pull her close from a place of fear, she feels it, not just intellectually, but biologically. Her body picks up on your instability, and instinctively she withdraws further, not to punish you, but to protect herself from a center that is not strong enough to hold her truth. Being an anchored man is not some stoic aesthetic or emotional performance. It's the result of deep internal work, of facing your shadows, of owning your wounds, of developing a spine that doesn't bend just because someone is upset with you. It's a form of leadership, one that begins not with controlling others, but with mastering yourself. And the woman who pulls back, she's not trying to destroy you, she's drawing out what's real in you. She's asking, not in words but in energy, are you safe enough for me to come closer, even when I'm afraid? And that safety doesn't come from promises or pretty words. It comes from your presence, your breath, your eye contact, your silence, your ability to sit with the moment, no matter how uncomfortable, and still be you. That's the anchor. That's what allows her to trust you. That's what draws her back, not out of guilt, but out of recognition. Here is a man who can hold me when I can't even hold myself, and that, right there, is not just powerful, it's sacred. When a woman withdraws, the average man either panics or hardens. He swings between two poles, neediness and detachment. He either chases her frantically, flooding her with messages, demands, explanations, or he shuts down emotionally, pretending not to care, punishing her with silence. But both responses come from the same place: fear, fear of abandonment, fear of inadequacy, fear that he's losing something he can't control, and fear, left unchecked, will always lead you away from truth and deeper into chaos. Now let's be honest, when someone you care about begins to distance themselves from you, it hurts. It triggers old wounds, rejections from childhood, betrayals from the past, stories of not being enough. The mind begins to spiral. What did I do wrong? What does this mean? Am I losing her? And in that state of confusion, most men rush to fix, to say something, do something, anything. But action that's rooted in insecurity is almost always destructive. Because it's not for her, it's for you. It's an attempt to soothe your own anxiety, not to understand hers. That's where strength becomes essential. Not the kind of strength that dominates or dismisses, but the kind that holds steady in uncertainty. It takes tremendous inner power to stay calm when someone you love is pulling away. It takes discipline to respond instead of react, to wait, not out of passivity, but out of clarity. You are not here to force her to open. You are here to be ready when she does, and she will, if she senses that your presence is not a cage, but a sanctuary, if she feels that your heart is open without collapsing into desperation, if she knows that her temporary silence won't unravel your sense of self. That's compassion, not in a soft, sentimental sense, but in a fierce, grounded, attentive way. Compassion means making room for her inner world, even when it doesn't align with yours. It means recognizing that her retreat isn't always about you. It's often about her own emotional process, her own fears, her need to feel safe before she can reconnect. But this doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean becoming a doormat. Boundaries matter. If withdrawal turns into manipulation, you must have the self-respect to call it out. Compassion doesn't cancel accountability. It integrates it. You can love her and still speak truth. You can hold her pain and still protect your dignity. That's the real test. Can you bring warmth and strength into the same moment? Because the man who navigates her withdrawal with maturity is the man who creates a path back to intimacy, not by pushing, but by inviting, by being the space where she doesn't feel judged, rushed, or analyzed. by making it emotionally safe for her to return on her own terms. When a woman pulls away and you don't chase, don't crumble, and don't retaliate, you're showing her something she's likely never seen before, a man who doesn't fear space. A man who can remain connected, even in silence, a man who can see beyond the surface and honor the process. She might not even fully understand herself, and that experience of being met with patience, presence, and unwavering attention changes her. Because it redefines what masculine love feels like, it heals old wounds, it rewrites old stories, it tells her through action that she doesn't have to perform or please or stay constantly close just to be worthy of being held. That she can step back without being punished, that she can express uncertainty without being abandoned, and in that, she learns to trust again, not just you, but herself, and you, in turn, become a man who transcends the fragile ego and steps into a deeper, more powerful embodiment of love. Not as something you demand, but something you offer quietly, firmly, unshakably. So, what does all this mean for you right now in this moment? It means you have a choice, a profound one. You can continue reacting from your wounds, chasing validation, clinging when she pulls away, collapsing into fear when connection feels uncertain. You can stay stuck in that loop, where control masquerades as love, where distance feels like rejection, and where every emotional shift threatens your sense of self. Or you can rise. You can choose to become the man who meets feminine complexity not with panic, but with presence. The man who does not beg for trust, but embodies it. The man who can stand tall when she pulls back, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares enough not to lose himself in the process. The man who leads not by force, but by example. And that takes more than confidence. It takes courage. It takes responsibility. It takes the willingness to be still in discomfort, to feel the heat of her withdrawal without flinching, to hold space for someone else's storm while anchoring yourself in truth. That's not easy. It never will be, but it's worth it. Because what you'll discover is this: when you stop trying to control love, it finally has room to grow. When you stop needing her to be a certain way in order for you to feel okay, she feels safe enough to come closer. This is your path, not to become perfect, not to become emotionless, but to become anchored, a man who can be trusted, not because he says the right thing, but because he is the right thing, steady, grounded, clear. And when she pulls back again, and she will, as all things ebb and flow, you'll know, you'll breathe, you'll stand firm, you'll watch the storm pass, and you'll smile, not because you're above the emotion, but because you've grown through it. That is strength. That is love. That is the man she's been waiting for, and more importantly, that is the man you were always meant to be.